anybody who's grown up Cuban doesn't necessarily come into a sort of like political consciousness of it at the same time. So describe your relationship with Cuba, whether it's over time or whatever.
It's been over time. I think like many Cuban Americans here, our parents really don't talk about these issues with us so much. At least that was my experience. I don't know if you had a different one. But I found that amongst my Cuban American friends, those that weren't born in Cuba, we didn't ever talk about it. We never really discussed this issue, whatever that issue is. I knew my parents' story. I knew my dad had been a political prisoner. I knew my mom had broken him out of jail. I knew that that was the reason we were here. And it was always something kind of the underline of all of our beliefs. And it wasn't until I started getting reconnected with my family in Cuba, which happened primarily because now they have access to cell phones. You know, I can't travel to Cuba. I refuse to go to Cuba. My father has put the fear of going to Cuba in me since I was a child. At least until the government falls. Obviously, I have to put that for the benefit of other people that didn't grow up Cuban, that don't realize that that's...
Yeah, we can get into all that. That's fine.
So until the situation changes, I don't intend to go. I started connecting with my family. And it was then that I realized, it really hit me like, wow, this is going on for real. Like, this is really happening. And... you know, now with the July 11th, so that was always just kind of in my mind. What can we do? What can we do from over here? We really can't do much. We're barred from going unless we go on an airplane and, you know, follow the rules. We can't do much. We can't help them. What can we do? After the July 11th protest happened, I became really frustrated with our politicians, specifically the ones in Miami that cater to our community. You know, oh, we're going to get you Wi-Fi. We're going to do something. We're going to lobby the government. As a libertarian, I don't want the government to go and launch a war with Cuba. But could we not like do something else? Could we not send maybe peacekeeping troops? We do have the UN. What are they doing? Not a whole lot. How is it possible that we can send troops around the world, but we can't send troops 90 miles from our shores to keep the peace, to make sure that the government isn't beating up its citizens and killing them? And, you know, we have 45 children in jail at this moment. 45 kids between 15 and 17 years old that have been given jail sentences up to 20 years. Like, what are we doing? If we're American and we're talking about giving democracy in other countries, and that's why we're going to war. Hello? We have children in jail 90 miles from our shores, and we're like, nah, but, you know, they'll solve that problem. So the only thing that I thought I could realistically do was send medicine. And that's what I ended up doing, is sending mostly antibiotics, but pretty much anything that we can into Cuba to help people that need it. And the reason they need it is because their own government won't provide it, and they can't provide it for themselves because they're in a dictatorship. And this is through People for Cuba, which you founded. Yes. Tell me about to the extent that you can, because I know that those things are always, you know, sensitive, but tell me about the mechanisms, that how that functions, to the extent that you can, you know, right. So it's a very small, I haven't incorporated it yet. We've decided to just go ahead and keep working on it. And so we will be eventually, you know, incorporating it and turning it into 501c3. And so that will eventually happen. What we were doing, I'm going to move this a little bit just so you're kind of like more in front of it. Yeah. So we will be getting that going. And how it works now, we've gotten so many donations from people for medicine and stuff. I've been very, very blessed with that. And some cash donations as well. What we do is we send it to Cuba, person to person, using the system that everybody uses, which is La Mula, you know. Yeah. During COVID, that was like during the lockdowns from July until November, pretty much. That was really difficult. It involved sending people through Spain, or, you know, it's just been, it can be done. It's just a lot of work. And now they're trying to change the laws in Cuba that if you receive any type of help, you can go to jail. So they want it to go through the government. So it's not getting much better. But that doesn't mean we're going to stop. And we've been delivering these medicines to people in Cuba, and then they distribute it in their neighborhoods. Yeah. So that way, you know, most people, myself included, I was ignorant to this. I thought like, oh, we're sending a bottle of 100 Tylenol pills. Well, that'll go to one person. Well, no, that doesn't happen in Cuba. They open up that bottle. They make these little paper envelopes, because that's what they have. And they'll put like 5 pills for this family and 5 pills. So that one bottle can help 10 families, 15, you know, whatever it is. And it's beautiful to watch. And I think we need more of that. We need that person-to-person building of bridges. Because in Cuba, they've been told so long that the government, the United States government is the one that blocks them from having it, when it's really their own government.
Right.
And those bonds within people, within their communities of helping each other have been broken.
Right.
So to me, that's the important mission here, is to recreate those bonds from Miami to Cuba and within Cubans, so that, maybe, hopefully, we can start having these conversations about bringing more freedom to Cuba without the government.
Is your, and I'm happy to get into, my at least childhood relationship with Cuba was different from yours, because for me, like, it was always a subject, and I even satisfied a lot of my community service hours and when I was a kid at Directorio Democrático Bueno.
You're a lot younger than I am. I grew up in the time where there weren't that many Cubans.
Not that much younger than
here.
You.
I remember reading on the walls, on expressways, the graffiti of Cubans go home.
Sure.
People here hated. So I think that's kind of why my parents were like, shh.
Right. No, and for them that experience was much more too. Is your unwillingness to go to Cuba more of an emotional than a philosophical thing? And I ask because you don't want to go, but you're sending things through people who would travel themselves.
Right. So originally it was my dad saying,
sure,
we don't want you to go. Also because my father never fulfilled his sentence. Okay. And so he felt that the Cuban government might use that to lure him back of somehow. I don't know if that was just my dad being a little paranoid, or if it was legit. My grandmother, we have family members that, members of my extended family that were fusilado, there's always been that fear of hey, they've killed people before.
Oh, yeah.
Do you really want to go? And then now that I speak a lot about the Venezuelan government, about the Cuban government, now I know for sure I cannot go back. I know I'm on a few lists. Yeah. Let's leave it that way. So I personally can't go. I know from other freedom fighters like Gloria Alvarez, when she made it to Cuba, you even said that you weren't allowed back in. When she made it to Cuba, they followed her around. They gave her an escort, and she couldn't leave unless it was with them. And then she was told, leave and don't come back.
Right.
So really, what am I gonna accomplish in Cuba that necessitates taking that risk?